Hi, welcome back. Think it's just a copper coin? Think again. Some Australian pennies are now worth thousands. One rare date could change everything. First up, 1927 Australian 1 penny. In the vast landscape of pre-decimal Australian coins, the 1927 1 penny holds a quiet yet steady place of respect. Although it's not considered extremely rare, its historical significance and collectability make it a coin that demands attention from both seasoned collectors and passionate newcomers alike. Issued during the reign of King George III, the 1927 penny was minted at the Melbourne Mint and features the familiar Commonwealth of Australia reverse design. The obverse carries the regal portrait of the king, engraved by Bertram McKennell, giving it the dignified aura that many associate with early 20th century coinage. Over 6.5 million of these coins were struck, which may sound like a large number, and it was. But as time marched on, the survival rate in high grade began to dwindle. Australia in 1927 was emerging from post-World War I recovery and stepping cautiously toward the impending Great Depression. The average person relied on pennies for everyday needs. Tram tickets, newspapers, a loaf of bread. These coins passed through countless hands and saw real wear, making pristine examples increasingly scarce. For collectors, this means that the true value of a 1927 penny lies not in its mintage, number, but in its condition. Circulated examples are easy to find in grades such as fine or very fine. However, step into the realm of extremely fine or uncirculated, and you're entering rare territory. Many coins were worn flat during decades of use, and only a tiny fraction were tucked away in mint condition. That makes them very attractive in numismatic circles. Additionally, minor minting errors such as rim cuds, die cracks, or misaligned dies can add another layer of collectability to the 1927 penny. These aren't always easy to find, but when they do appear, collectors are often willing to pay a premium. Beyond its monetary worth, the coin is a sentimental piece of Australian heritage. For some collectors, it might be a memory of their grandparents' era. For others, it's part of an ambitious journey to complete a full penny series. From 1911 to 1964, a rewarding yet increasingly challenging endeavor. Now let's talk auction values. In average circulated condition, good to fine, a 1927 penny typically sells for $100 to $200 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine condition, prices rise to around $200 to $500 AUD. In uncirculated condition, especially with full original red or red-brown luster, auction values can climb significantly, fetching between $2,100 and $26,000 AUD, depending on eye appeal and strike quality. Exceptional specimens with rich color and zero handling marks have reached upwards of $28,000 AUD in top-tier auctions. Number 2. 1931 Australian 1 penny. The 1931 Australian 1 penny is often referred to as the holy grail for collectors of Australian copper coinage. It is a coin that doesn't just hold value, it tells a story of economic hardship, minting anomalies, and enduring legacy. This is not your average coin. This is a numismatic icon. To fully understand its significance, one must travel back to the early 1930s. Australia was caught in the grip of the Great Depression. Jobs were scarce, wages were low, and life was a struggle for most working-class families. Against this backdrop, the 1931 penny emerged quietly, modestly, and in exceptionally low numbers. With a total mintage of only 494,000, the 1931 penny ranks among the rarest circulating Australian coins of the 20th century. But there's more. The coin was struck using two different obverse dies, the Indian obverse Type 9 and the London obverse Type 10. The London obverse, identifiable by the shape of the lettering and spacing around the rim, is considerably rarer than the Indian type and is heavily sought after. Many 1931 pennies were produced using leftover dies and planchets. Some experts even suggest that portions of the mintage may have been backdated using older dies, a theory that adds an extra layer of intrigue. Because of the extreme economic conditions, few people saved pennies. They were spent, lost, or worn down. High-grade survivors are almost non-existent. Most that do exist are heavily worn, scratched, or corroded. This makes the 1931 penny incredibly desirable in any grade. But especially in fine or higher, the coin's value is compounded by the fact that it is often targeted by counterfeiters. Many fakes are made by altering the dates of 1933 or 1935 pennies to resemble the 1931. Experienced collectors always advise buying certified examples, graded by a reputable third party. Even among the rare, the rarest is the 1931 London obverse. With fewer than 1,000 believed to exist in all grades, this variation often becomes the crown jewel in an Australian pre-decimal collection. Now let's examine the real-world auction values. In lower grades like good or fair, a genuine 1931 penny Indian obverse still commands $150 to $300 AUD. In fine to very fine condition, prices increase to $6,000 to $12,000 AUD. An extremely fine Indian obverse coin can bring $2,000 to $4,000 AUD or more, depending on surface quality and color. For London obverse examples, a fine specimen starts at $25,000 to $4,000 AUD. Very fine to extremely fine examples have sold for $7,000 to $75,000 AUD. In uncirculated condition, the London obverse 1931 penny has reached record auction prices of over $25,000 AUD, making it one of the most valuable Australian pennies ever sold. Number 3, 1915 Australian 1 penny. The 1915 Australian 1 penny holds an extraordinary place in the annals of pre-decimal coinage. It is a coin that not only reflects a particular year, but echoes the haunting tones of global conflict and a young nation's involvement in its first major war. Struck in the heart of the First World War, the 1915 penny was produced entirely at the Royal Mint in London. That's right, despite being an Australian coin, it was minted thousands of miles away in the UK. This makes the 1915 issue historically significant, as it was the final year that Australia's pennies were minted abroad. From 1916 onwards, production shifted to the Melbourne Mint. The obverse features the elegant bust of King George V wearing the imperial state crown. The reverse design remains consistent with other years. The iconic 1 penny, in bold lettering within a beaded inner circle, surrounded by the words Commonwealth of Australia and the date below. The total mintage for this issue was approximately 4.6 million coins, relatively modest for the era. However, very few were saved in top-grade condition. Australia, embroiled in a world war, had little time or thought for coin collecting. These coins were used daily and worn down, with many examples today showing heavy circulation wear. The 1915 penny is not typically known for major die varieties or errors, but subtle die differences and planche flaws do exist. As with many early copper coins, tone and surface quality play a huge role in determining desirability and price. A glossy chocolate brown or red brown, uncirculated 1915 penny is a thing of beauty and a prized asset in any advanced collection. Collectors value this coin for more than its metal. It's a symbolic piece of a nation at war, a bridge between colonial production and local minting, and a testament to the endurance of copper coinage under challenging global conditions. Now, let's take a close look at the auction values. In average circulated condition, good to fine, the 1915 penny is worth around $80 to $200 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine grade, it fetches between $600 and $1,500 AUD, depending on surface quality. Uncirculated specimens with clean fields and red-brown tone can sell for $14,000 to $19,000 AUD. Exceptionally preserved examples with full red luster and sharp detail have reached $25,000 AUD or more in elite auctions, though they are extremely rare. Number 4, 1923 Australian 1 penny. Among all Australian pre-decimal copper coins, the 1923 1 penny holds a place of mythical status. It's not just rare, it is extremely rare. One of the rarest Australian circulating coins ever minted, and one that has earned a well-deserved spot on every serious collector's dream list. To understand the story behind the 1923 penny is to enter a tale of mystery and unintended rarity. The coin was struck during the reign of King George V, at a time when Australia was adjusting to post-World War I economic realities. Although officially over 1.1 million pennies were reported as minted. In 1923, records and research later confirmed that almost all of these were made using old 1922 dies. This means that very few genuine 1923 dated pennies were ever struck, likely no more than 15,000 to 20,000, and possibly even less. Most of the coins were produced at the Melbourne Mint, but only in small batches and never for wide circulation. There was no widespread release, no public announcement, and no awareness that the year would become iconic in the future. For many decades, collectors didn't even realize just how rare the 1923 penny was. It wasn't until the 1960s and 70s that its scarcity began to be fully understood. Today, the 1923 penny is recognized as one of the big 3 Australian rare pennies, alongside the 1930 and 1931 issues. But while the 1930 penny tends to get the limelight, the 1923 penny is arguably even rarer, particularly in high grade. In terms of physical appearance, the 1923 penny follows the traditional layout. The obverse features the left-facing portrait of King George V, while the reverse bears the bold one-penny legend, surrounded by Commonwealth of Australia and the date. However, subtle die characteristics, such as bead spacing, rim denticles, and legend alignment, are used by experts to confirm authenticity, especially given the number of fakes in the market. That's right, because the 1923 penny is so valuable, it is also one of the most forged Australian coins. Counterfeiters often alter more common 1922 pennies or fabricate copies outright. For this reason, all 1923 pennies in serious collections are typically certified and graded by professional numismatic authorities. Now let's look at auction values, and this is where things get serious. In fine condition, a genuine 1923 penny can sell for $15,000 to $19,000 out. In very fine, the price climbs to between $10,000 and $12,000 out. If the coin is in extremely fine or about uncirculated condition, expect auction results of $25,000 to $35,000 out. An uncirculated 1923 penny, with only a handful known to exist, can command $4,000 to $6,000 in AUD or more, depending on toning and eye appeal. The finest known examples have exceeded $1 million.
EUD in top-tier Australian numismatic auctions.
Number 5. 1936 Australian 1 penny. The 1936 Australian 1 penny is not particularly rare in terms of mintage, but it holds a special place in both history and sentiment. It marks the final year of the reign of King George V, who passed away in January 1936, just weeks into the new year. This coin serves as the bookend to an era, the last penny to feature the beloved monarch who appeared on Australian coinage from 1911 through 1936. With a mintage of approximately 12 million, the 1936 penny was struck at the Melbourne Mint, and it saw heavy circulation throughout the country. That being said, while the coin is relatively common in worn grades, high-quality examples, particularly in red, uncirculated condition, are significantly more scarce and highly desirable to collectors. The coin's reverse features the standard 1 penny, designed inside a beaded inner circle, with Commonwealth of Australia around the edge and the date below. The obverse features George V in left-facing profile, a familiar portrait to Australian collectors. The artistry of the design, combined with the emotional connection to the end of a royal era, gives this coin a deeper collector appeal. One interesting variety known in the 1936 penny is the dropped 6 error, where the digit 6 in the date appears lower than the rest. This subtle but collectible anomaly adds value and intrigue to certain pieces, especially in higher grades. For many collectors, the 1936 penny is a gateway coin, easy to acquire in average grades, but increasingly challenging as condition improves. And for those building a full pre-decimal set, it serves as a natural transitional piece between the George V and Edward VIII George VI eras. Let's break down the auction values. In good to fine condition, the 1936 penny typically sells for around 100 to 300 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine, the coin fetches between $1,800 and $2,500 AUD, depending on toning and strike. In uncirculated condition, prices jump to $10,000 to $2,500 AUD, particularly for coins with glossy brown or red-brown finishes. For brilliant uncirculated or full red specimens, especially those certified by PCGS or NGC, values can reach $25,000 to $2,750 AUD exceptional. Examples with error varieties like the dropped 6 have crossed $3,000 AUD at auction. Number 6. 1919 Australian 1 penny. The 1919 1 penny represents a key turning point in Australian coinage history. It was the first year Australian pennies were struck at the Melbourne Mint, ending the exclusive production by the Royal Mint in London. That alone makes the 1919 penny a historically significant coin for numismatists and national historians alike. There were 2 main varieties of the 1919 penny, one with a dot below scroll and one with no dot. The dot below scroll variety is far rarer and more valuable, as it was struck in smaller numbers and represents a specific die pairing. The dot was likely used by mint staff to distinguish between die types or production runs, a practice seen on multiple early 20th century Australian coins. The The 1919 penny also marked the beginning of a new phase in minting. These coins were struck with Australian-made dies under challenging post-war conditions. As a result, strike quality varied, with many coins showing softness and detail, especially in the king's crown or the lettering. The obverse, of course, features King George V. The reverse carries the traditional one-penny design inside a ringed border, with the minting year and the phrase Commonwealth of Australia. In terms of survival, many 1919 pennies were heavily circulated, and finding a high-grade example, especially one with the dot below scroll, is becoming increasingly difficult. Let's now talk about auction values, starting with the standard no-dot variety. In fine to very fine condition, a 1919 no-dot penny sells for around $100 to $250 AUD. In extremely fine, values jump to $500 to $1,000 AUD. In uncirculated condition, expect $13,000 to $17,000 AUD, with lustrous red examples topping $2,000 AUD. Now for the dot below scroll variety. In fine to very fine, the coin can fetch $300 to $600 AUD. In extremely fine, it ranges between $200 and $2,000 AUD. In uncirculated, this variety is rare and highly sought after, often commanding $3,500 to $35,000 AUD. Depending on color, strike, and certification, top-graded dot below scroll. Examples have achieved auction prices of over $100 thousands AUD, especially when offered through major Australian numismatic houses. Number 7. 1911 Australian One Penny. The 1911 Australian One Penny is where the entire story of Australian copper coinage begins. It is the first ever Australian penny, minted to represent a new nation that had federated only a decade earlier, in 1901. Prior to this year, Australians used British or colonial coinage, but 1911 marked the birth of a national coinage system, and the penny was the foundation. This coin was struck at the Royal Mint in London and features the left-facing portrait of King George V, making his first appearance on an Australian coin. The reverse bears the now iconic one-penny design in the center, enclosed within a beaded inner circle, with Commonwealth of Australia around the rim and the date 1911, proudly displayed below. Although the mintage was substantial, over 3.3 million pieces. The coin's historical significance as the first Commonwealth penny makes it extremely collectible. It's not just about rarity, it's about legacy. Every collector building a full Australian penny set begins with this coin. It marks the beginning of a national identity expressed through currency. Despite the mintage number, most 1911 pennies were heavily circulated over the years. This makes high-grade examples hard to find. Most coins you'll encounter in the market are well-worn, bearing signs of long usage through 2 world wars and a Great Depression. Some collectors also seek out specific die pairings and striking varieties. While no major mint errors are officially recorded for the 1911 penny, sharp-eyed numismatists do occasionally find coins with die cracks, off-center strikes, or weak legends, which can enhance desirability. Let's explore its auction values. In good-to-fine condition, a 1911 penny usually sells for $50 to $150 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine, the value increases to $400 to $1,200 AUD. In uncirculated or near-mint condition, especially with glossy chocolate or red-brown luster, prices range from $23,500 to $28,000 AUD. The highest quality certified examples on graded MS64 and above with full red toning have been known to reach $45,000 to $52,000 AUD at major auctions. Number 8. Australian One Penny. The 1932 Australian One Penny is a classic example of a mid-depression era coin that combines scarcity with historical depth. Struck during one of the harshest years of the Great Depression, this coin holds particular value for collectors, not just because of its relative rarity, but also for what it represents: economic survival during hardship. Produced exclusively at the Melbourne Mint, the total mintage was just 3,600, a far lower number than most other pennies of the era. This makes it one of the key low-mintage dates in the Australian penny series, particularly desirable when found in higher grades. Like others of the George V era, the 1932 penny features the king's portrait on the obverse and the traditional Commonwealth design on the reverse. But don't let the familiar appearance fool you. The 1932 penny is subtly challenging for collectors. Many examples were poorly struck, showing soft details in the crown or legends, Combine that with widespread use during the Depression, and the result is that well struck, high-grade examples are rare and expensive. While no major errors are officially recognized, there have been discoveries of coins with minor die cracks, off-center strikes, and weak rims, all of which can appeal to error collectors. Now to the auction values. In good to fine, a 1932 penny typically sells for $20 to $60 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine, values range from $100 to $250 AUD. In uncirculated condition, expect prices of $18,000 to $2,500 AUD depending on eye appeal. Premium coins with vibrant red or red-brown luster and fully struck details have sold for $2,500 to $4,000 AUD, with top-graded specimens reaching $5,000 AUD or more in elite numismatic auctions. Number 9. 1928 Australian 1 penny. The 1928 Australian 1 penny sits in that fascinating middle ground between accessibility and collectability. It's not the rarest penny by mintage numbers, but it offers a solid challenge for high-grade seekers and holds unique appeal for those building complete series sets. Minted during the reign of King George III, the 1928 penny was produced at the Melbourne Mint with a reported mintage of 3.25 million. That figure might sound ordinary, and it is, but what's extraordinary is how few well-struck, uncirculated examples have survived. Australia in 1928 was still recovering from post-war instability, and these coins were used heavily. The vast majority were circulated to death. That's why collectors today struggle to find coins in extremely fine or better, especially ones with full strike and smooth surfaces. From a visual perspective, the 1928 penny features the standard Commonwealth design with the George V effigy on the obverse. However, what sets this coin apart is its tendency for poor strikes and soft rims, especially on the obverse. That makes coins with full crisp details even more valuable. There are also known die crack and rim cut errors, though not common, and some off-center examples have appeared at auction, adding to the collectible intrigue. Now to the auction values. In fine condition, a 1928 penny typically fetches $100 to $250 AUD. In very fine to extremely fine, prices jump to $600 to $1,200 AUD. In uncirculated condition, particularly with nice brown or red-brown tone, expect $13,000 to $16,000 AUD. The best examples, with full strike, red brilliance, and slabbed certification from NGC or PCGS, have sold for $2,200 to $28,000 AUD, and rarer varieties have crossed $32,000 AUD at major Australian auctions. Number 10. 1917 Australian 1 penny. The 1917 1 penny is one of the more common World War era coins in Australia, but it offers fascinating variations that elevate it beyond its mintage numbers. Minted at 2 different locations, London and Calcutta, this coin presents collectors with the exciting challenge of identifying mint marks and die varieties. Here's how it breaks down. 1917 no mint mark, struck in London. 1917 I, struck at the Calcutta Mint, marked by an I mint mark below the date. Together they account for a combined mintage of about 12.5 million coins, with the majority coming from Calcutta. However, due to wartime conditions, many coins were poorly struck, rushed into circulation, or exposed to humid environments, leading to pitting and corrosion. As such, high-grade survivors are uncommon, especially for the Indian issue. The obverse features King George IV, and the reverse carries the standard 1 penny design with Commonwealth of Australia around the border. However, Calcutta-struck coins have unique characteristics, such as slight differences in lettering alignment, dot spacing, and strike sharpness, making them a collector's delight. The 1917 I penny is slightly more collectible due to the mint mark and historical context of wartime production overseas. Though not extremely rare, they do command a premium in better grades. Let's break down auction values. For the 1917 London penny, in fine condition $50 to $100 AUD, in very fine to extremely fine, $200 to $600 AUD, in uncirculated, $12,000 to $15,000 AUD, top quality red examples, up to $18,000 AUD. For the 1979 Calcutta penny, in fine condition, $100 to $200 AUD, in very fine to extremely fine, $500 to $1,200 AUD. In uncirculated, values rise to $3,500 to $17,000 AUD. the finest full red. Certified specimens have achieved prices of $22,000 AUD or more in auctions across Australia and the UK. And there you have it. Some of the most fascinating Australian one-penny coins from the early 20th century, whether it's the historical significance of 1911, the scarcity of 1932, the overlooked rarity of 1928, or the wartime varieties of 1917. Each coin tells a unique story. If you're a collector, investor, or just someone who loves old coins, these pennies are not just copper, they're living history. Thanks for watching and happy collecting.